narrow stance goblet squat. Now, when performing this exercise, we can use a dumbbell, we can use a kettlebell, we can use a dead ball. It doesn't really matter. What matters is making sure that the weight is going to be challenging enough for us when performing this exercise. So, as the name implies, we're going to have a fairly narrow stance, which for most people will be hip width. If that's far too restrictive for you, that's fine. You can go a little bit wider, but again, try and keep a narrow stance. The reason we're doing a narrow stance is this going to shift focus and bias towards your thighs, more specifically, as opposed to a traditional stance, which is at hip width or outside of hip width, sorry, where it's going to be a balance between your thighs and your glutes. So again, selecting a narrow stance because that's what we're working on specifically with this exercise. Holding the weight close to our chest, good posture. My gaze is looking forward the entire time. And I'm then going to sink into the movement as deep as I can and then up. As deep as you can and then up. From the side view, as deep as you can and then up. A little bit of cracking is okay as long as there's no pain associated with it. Again, key things to keep in mind, keeping the weight on your midfoot. That may not make sense to some people, but just visualize and think about the idea of keeping your weight balanced on your midfoot. This will help ensure that you're in line with your center of mass, conscious of your posture, conscious of the range of motion. Go as deep as you possibly can. And lastly, would be probably controlling your knees as you go through the movement. One thing you want to avoid is your knees excessively shifting out of alignment of your toes. If there's a small degree of change as you perform the exercise, that's more than okay. However, if there's an excessive amount, literally to the point where your knees are touching each other when you're performing the exercise, then you're doing it incorrectly. Try and control it. There should always be a small gap and distance between your knees. They shouldn't be touching each other when performing this exercise.